Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, however, wherever, whenever you're listening. This is the Root for Wisconsin Show, episode 163, coming at you from the Riverwood Gallery Studio in De Pere, Wisconsin. I'm host, producer Eric Fisher, the Big E. Joining me this week, we have Dylan Tritt. Dylan, how are you doing, buddy?
Doing all right. How are you?
Fantastic. It's been a couple of weeks. Admittedly, it's only really been about 1 week since we talked. We had tried to record last week's episode. We had some scheduling, some tech issues. So we had an unfinished product. So between that and then everything happening this week with basketball and all the events of the rest of the real world, we're going to fly through this episode. We're going to make it as quick as possible because, quite frankly, I'm exhausted.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
So real quick here, we're going to go start with mentioning our friends over at Rage and Pro Wrestling. Awesome couple events over the weekend. We did not get to our goal of having Rich have to wear a cheese head on Sunday, but the next event is coming up faster than you know. It'll be RPW Redemption 4, January 25th, back out at the Big Apple Pub and Grill in Manitowoc. Doors will open at 5:30, bell time at 6. One match already announced, and that'll be AEW superstar Danhausen teaming up with Brick 12-gauge McCarthy, against JDX and Rampage Santana. That match already announced. So card is coming together pretty quickly, but do want to shout them out. Awesome weekend. Got to see Hornswoggle up close and personal. That was pretty cool. So awesome events over the weekend. We start off with what we start off every episode with, and that is what we had rooted for in the past week, or in this case, 2 weeks. And Dylan, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, mostly been rooting for the Wisconsin high school alumni, basketball alumni that are now playing in college. Colin Knippel out of Duke. Ali Ziebel out of Nina, I believe that's her name. Forgive me if I...
Ali Zibel.
Zibel, okay, yeah. Out of Nina, playing at UConn. Admittedly, I haven't seen how she's been playing, but...
They have not had a counted game yet.
Right, they're just doing their exhibition.
They had their exhibition on Saturday or Sunday. So they have not had an official game. Their first official game coming up, because I love UConn women's basketball. So their first official game will be coming up tomorrow, actually, at 6 p.m.
Cool. I'll do my best to catch that. But yeah, there are two reigning Mr. and Mrs. Basketball out of Wisconsin. So I root for them.
And for what it's worth, the previous year's Miss Basketball also is at UConn and KK Arnold.
Yep. So yeah, we're invested in those two teams. Unfortunately, we have to be invested in Duke. UConn women's basketball is a little easier to swallow.
Dylan.
But yeah, that's what I got.
I'm gonna go kind of the same breath, catching everybody up. My high school playoff radio call ended after 1 week. Which I'll talk about a little bit later as well. But it ended after the first week for Luxembourg Casco. They were eliminated in level 1 of the Division III playoffs, but was rooting for them. And then also, just to start, college basketball is officially here. Have gotten to go to one game so far. That was the men's lone exhibition game. The women didn't have an exhibition game. But yeah, the start of college basketball, I do still think that it is a travesty that we miss out on the ESPN tip-off marathon, which I will talk about every single year, and that actually is going to lead directly into my noogies, because I got a couple this week. But that's my first one, is the fact that we don't have the 24-hour tip-off marathon or 20-some-odd hour tip-off marathon. It was always awesome. You wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning to watch basketball, and there's games going all day. And we kind of had that. We did have games throughout most of the day on Tuesday, which was the official, or Monday, which was the official start of college basketball games. But Yeah, it's just something missing when there's not a game going on at like 4 a.m., which Green Bay and the men actually played in a couple of those a couple years back. So, gonna give a noogie to that. Gonna also give a noogie, same breath, to college basketball, to the Milwaukee normal school fans who continue to try to troll me on X and are very bad at it. And it's quite honestly comical. Um, if you follow me there or if you talk to me, I'm sure you already know. But if you don't, they love this dude who gave them 220 win seasons and kind of pieced out after that. And they beat Green Bay twice in a row to end the season. They beat them in the regular season finale and then the first round of the quarterfinals of the Horizon League tournament. Hats off to them, I guess. Still didn't go to the NCAA tournament. But yeah, these people out on the online Twitter sphere, X sphere, whatever, they love hating on me and thinking that I just live to hate this one dude who doesn't even go to school there anymore. And none of them even went to UW Milwaukee, which they also hate being called, by the way. They hate being called UW Milwaukee. They just insist it's Milwaukee for sports. But, you're going to get one of the two from me. It's either going to be UW Milwaukee or Milwaukee Normal School, MNS. So pick your poison, I guess. It's going to be one of the two. I'm not calling you just Milwaukee. And then I kind of mentioned this in our unreleased episode, so Dylan, you're going to hear it twice, so I do apologize. But my other noogie coming in the aspect that the press box out at Plymouth is where we had our Luxembourg Casco game. It sucked. And the layout of it was not broadcaster friendly or even accommodating for the opposing school traveling there. And yeah, it was, the worst of it was they had this ladder to get up to the top of the press box because they didn't really tell you where you had to go. And we were initially placed on top of the press box, which is stupid in and of itself, given that they had a full booth spot that was not able to be used because they had to have their little potluck for the coaches. That was whatever. But yeah, so it was a wasted window, not very accommodating, and this ladder to get to the top of the press box done. And we know I'm a larger scale individual. The guy I called the games with, who is also a Luxembourg alum, on top of it, so he's got even more vested interest in this team than I do.
Mm-hmm.
But he's an alum who's in his 60s. So the two of us trying to get radio equipment on a ladder that literally goes like a 90 degrees with the floor. It was a sight.
I would
And
have
they
had a
also
good
get a
time
noogie for
watching that, I
that.
think.
What's that?
I would have had a good time watching that.
Yeah, and the hardest part is that you get to the top and there's not like a landing spot. So you have to grab the top of like the background of like the fence and grab the very tip top of it and like swing your leg over to
Doesn't
while you're
seem up to
carrying
code.
equipment. Yeah, it really doesn't, if we're being honest. But yeah, so quick noogie to them as well. So 3 noogies this week: Milwaukee Normal School, ESPN for not having the bracket or the opening tip-off marathon, and then Plymouth High School's prize booth. What do you got for us on noogies?
I got one. We could talk for this on this one for hours, but we'll make it quick. I got to give it to the New York Yankees fans who tried to rip that ball out of Mookie Betts' glove was that game 4?
Yes.
Yeah, game 4. We've seen over the years, we've seen fans get more aggressive. The audacity of them grows in how they interact with players, not just in MLB. You see it a lot in the NBA. We're starting to see it in the NFL as well. And that's part of the game, hostile away environments. It's totally part of the game. It's part of every sport. But that crossed the line. the fact that the two of them grabbed him, held him, and literally tried to pull him into the stands as the one was trying to rip the ball out of the glove. I think the Yankees did the right thing by kicking him out immediately. Personally, I would like to see him banned for life. I think you got to make an example out of it. Otherwise, if it goes relatively unpunished, then that's just sending the message the opposite way, I think.
I think it needs to be a ban. I wouldn't say for life. I think it needs to be like a year, maybe 2. I don't think a ban for life is the correct choice either. But it's definitely, it was a bad look, and I'm gonna let you guys be the judge on this because the Yankees. So as we know now, the Yankees end up losing the World Series in Game 5. They lose 4-1. So I'm gonna let you be the judge of this, Dylan, because baseball is so superstitious. So there's always some sort of curse, right? And I'm going to ask you, and granted, when this happened in Game 4, Dodgers were already up 3-0. But if there was a curse to be had out of this World Series for the Yankees, who've already been kind of struggling for the first time in team history, or at least I think in since the turn of the 20th century, going into the 1900s. The 2010s was the first time that they did not win a World Series in at least once within that decade. Their last World Series came in 2009, or they won. Their last World Series championship was 2009. Their last appearance prior to this last year actually was 2009 as well. So, there is, some superstition where they've already not been in it since 2009. And now they lose one. But my question to you, I'm going to pose, if there is going to be a curse that comes out of this specific World Series, is it going to be because of the fan, or is it going to be Aaron Judge, who basically no-showed, took a 5-0, the Yankees took that 5-0 lead in Game 5 with the chance to, potentially make a Game 6 and then Game 7. So a chance to really get back in the series. They had a 5-0 lead. It starts with I think it was a bad 5th inning as well, where Aaron Judge misplays a ball. And then there's a bad throw to second. So you had 2 errors, runners on second, or I think it might have been bases loaded, or it was runners on second and third. Garrett Cole goes and strikes the next 2 guys out, but then he doesn't cover first. And Anthony Rizzo's sitting there like, what the fuck? Like, where were you? He's trying to make a throw over. Run scores, and then the inning goes downhill from there. And the Yankees or the Dodgers end up tying the game in that inning, and then later go on to eliminate the Yankees in that game. So if you're going to be, if you're pointing out a superstition, is the curse on Aaron Judge for basically no showing? Is the curse on Aaron Judge for being the team captain and having his only error of the year? Is it on the fan for kind of getting involved, even when that was already 3-0 and the Yankees did go on to win that game? Or is this a continuation of some other curse since 2010 that is yet to be determined? Because the other factor of this too is, you look at like the Cubs curse, the Billy Goat curse, had different instances, including like Steve Bartman in 2003, and it kind of re-invoked and kind of sparked or kept the curse going. So is this an ongoing curse from something else, or is this going to start a new low of Yankees baseball?
I'm going to say, with my extremely limited knowledge of baseball, and especially of the Yankees, I'm going to say it's probably a slight continuation of something that's already been going on. And then on top of that, the fan doing something stupid and exacerbating the situation. Hopefully they can blame it on the fan, because I don't think that should go unpunished. That's my opinion.
And on top of that, like I said, the fact that you have a team captain, who Aaron Judge is the Yankees, they don't put the C on the jersey like they do in football. but they, make a big deal about their team captain. It used to be Derek Jeter for forever. It's now Aaron Judge. So you have a
Hmm.
team captain for really the first time since Jeter. Disappearing at times. He had the Bluey or the Paw Patrol curse this year too. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh,
This was
can't
something
say
we
I
had
do.
talked about. I think it was me and Sean had talked about. But there was a Paw Patrol curse on Aaron Judge where he appeared as himself on an episode of Paw Patrol, broke his lucky bat within the episode, and then he didn't have a
Oh,
home run for like 50 some odd straight at bats, and he hit he had like two base hits in that whole time frame and whole bunch of
Patrol
strikeouts.
Curse.
The Paw Patrol
Of all
curse.
things, of all things,
So is this the Paw Patrol curse coming back? And really, that's
could be.
maybe the
Oh, that'd be
something
hilarious.
that we're going to have to blame going forward. I mean, could you imagine, hypothetically speaking, of course, because they're going to make the World Series every now and then, just being a New York
High,
Yankees.
high payroll team, yeah.
But could you imagine? And they've already been 10 years without, or 50, or close to 15 years without winning one. But this is their first appearance since winning in '09. Can you imagine? We had the Billy Goat curse, and the Red Sox had the Babe Ruth curse, or curse of the Bambino, because they sold him to the Yankees, and he went on to go have the great career and all that. They went like the Red Sox went. I don't know, remember exactly what it was, but it was like 90 some odd years of no World Series, or 86 years of no World Series. The Cubs went like 108 years without winning a World Series from 1908 to 2016. Could you imagine if in 100 years there's people, talking about if baseball's still a thing, if the Paw Patrol curse is on that same level of the curse of the Bambino and the Billy Goat curse and, um, et cetera, et cetera.
That'd be
But
hilarious.
it'd be the Paw Patrol curse.
Of all things, I hope
And
so.
really, I think that's what it comes
Screw
down to.
'em.
I think this is, now that I'm thinking about this out loud, because they didn't have that World Series appearance between now and then. But that happens in September or August, and that really sparks things. This is all continuation of the Paw Patrol curse.
Gotta be. It's gotta be.
And if that doesn't make you a little bit happy as a non-Yankee fan, nothing will.
Oh, it does.
So yeah, that's our noogies for the week. Um, Wisconsin web story. We'll make these as quick as possible. But Dylan, did you see that Molson Coors has announced that the Leinenkugel's historic brewing facility is no longer going to be producing beer? I believe after 2025, they have plans to close the Chippewa Falls Historic Brewery down.
I did not see that. That is concerning.
Molson Coors made the announcement earlier today to that facility or that they're going to recommend. It hasn't approved yet within the company. But the story coming out of Chippewa Falls, courtesy of WEAU, we learned Molson Coors is announcing plans to close the Leinenkugel's brewery in Chippewa Falls, ending more than a century and a half tradition of brewing in northwestern Wisconsin. Molson Coors Chief Supply Chain Officer Brian Earhart released a statement regarding the planned closure of the Leinenkugel's Chippewa Falls Brewery. Following the end of a large contract brewing agreement and amid an ongoing canning line investment project at our Milwaukee brewery, we have made the decision to close two of our smaller brewing operations in Wisconsin and centralize statewide production at our main site in Milwaukee. While this is never easy, these choices are made with as much thought and consideration to position Molson Coors for continued success in Wisconsin and beyond. Ever since Leinenkugel's joined Miller Brewing in 1988, the brand in Chippewa Falls have been a cherished part of our company and culture. That's not changing. Leinie's Summer Shandy and the rest of the portfolio will continue to play a role in premiumization plans, and the Leinie Lodge and adjacent pilot brewery will remain open year-round for guests to enjoy and experience Leinenkugel's beer and history. So it sounds like they just won't be brewing there, potentially.
Hmm.
The quote goes on to say, This was a note to distributors. As we transform our portfolio to win beer in the beer aisle and beyond, we must also continually identify ways to transform our supply chain. We do this to drive higher levels of performance, build our capabilities, and maximize our investments so we can best meet the needs of today's and tomorrow's consumers. The approach has enabled us to revitalize and now accelerate our business, but at times it requires us to make difficult choices. That is the case today, as we have made the difficult decision to cease operations at both 10th Street and Leinenkugel's Chippewa Falls breweries effective January 17th, 2025. Production at both facilities will shift to Milwaukee Brewery. We made the decision to close 10th Street in Milwaukee in light of the sale of 10th and Blake breweries, as production of the facility included 19.2-ounce cans of these brands. We will transition production of the 19.2-ounce cans of Blue Moon and other continuing brands to the Milwaukee Brewery, made possible through a can line investment at the facilities. In the case of Leinenkugel's, the move follows the gradual shift of production of the Liney's brands from Chippewa Falls to Milwaukee as the portfolio has grown throughout the years. Milwaukee already produces more than 75% of total Leinenkugel volume. As of right now, looks like there's a later part of this thing where it says, since Miller Brewing Company acquired Leinenkugels in 1988, the brand and Chippewa Falls have been a cherished part of our company culture. That's not changing. Liney Summer Machine, I read that part already. It will remain open for year-round visitors, or year-round for visitors to enjoy the Leinenkugels experience, and there's also no plan changes for the barrel yard located at American Family Field either. So it sounds like it's just potentially just the brewery operations.
Yeah.
But
I'm sure
that
more
is
information is going to come out in the next couple days or so. You feel bad for the employees up there. I've probably been working there for a long time, but yeah, companies do it. Budget cuts. I get it.
So that is the Wisconsin web story of the week. Real quick, we'll go to the world of sports here. Where do we want to start? Basketball, football?
Let's start with the Bucks. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot to talk about with the Bucks. They are an absolute dumpster fire right now. They are currently last place in their division. They are last place in the Eastern Conference, and they are tied with Utah for last place in the league at 1-6.
Yikes.
Yeah, it's not good. It's interesting because our offensive output isn't that bad. Obviously, we have Giannis, who is currently the number 2 scorer in the league behind Anthony
Mm-hmm.
Davis. I believe he's at 31 even. Anthony Davis is at like 32.3 maybe, if I remember the graphic I saw correctly. And Damian Lillard is also in the top 10 for scoring. I believe he's right around somewhere between 24 and 26 a game. Might be 26. I don't know.
He is at 27.6 actually.
Okay. All right. So we have 2 guys averaging 31 and 27 and a half respectively. And we're 1-6. Granted, Giannis was out the last game against the Cavaliers where they actually played better. Then they just had a back-to-back with Cleveland, I believe.
That's correct. Saturday, Monday.
Giannis played the first one. They didn't do so. They didn't do as bad as I figured they were going to do, but they didn't do great. And then with Giannis out, they actually played a little bit better, which I don't think there's a coincidence there. I think that's just how it happens sometimes. Problem is defense, and Bucks have one of, if not the worst defense in the league, and I think that's all. I shouldn't say it's all on Doc Rivers because he's not the one out there playing, but he's the one scheming. He's the one that's supposed to be coaching these guys up.
He's the one putting the
I
rotations together, most
Yeah,
importantly.
I don't know if he's just lost the locker room. I don't know if the guys don't respect him enough to play hard. I don't know what I don't know. I don't know. Obviously, I'm not in the locker room. Um,
Well, and here's
but
here's what I'll say to that. I got two things on this quick. At any level, basketball defense is really effort. I mean,
mhm,
especially in the half court. There's times where yes, there are times where you're going to get beat on a fast break, or you're going to get beat on a move because you guessed and whatever. But athlete to athlete, it's a lot. It's mostly effort,
mhm,
and if you're not putting in effort, like yeah, it's going to happen. If you're lazy getting over on a change, or fighting through a screen, or just letting a shot
mhm,
go up, that's going to happen. Um,
mhm,
Admittedly, I have not had a lot of time to watch the Bucks. I've just been busy when they've played, and I've had other games that I've been watching going on.
mhm.
But what I can also say is I think it's kind of goes on to the culture. There's two things. One, it's the culture of where the Bucks are. And this is not a Doc Rivers thing or really anybody within the building, but the fact of the matter is in the NBA for the really good teams, it's just you have to get to the dance. You have to do just enough to get to the playoffs, and everything's that all bets are off after that. It doesn't really matter. And the Bucks, for all intents and purposes, should be there at the end. Everything on
Yes.
paper indicates they should be there. 1-6, it doesn't, you don't feel great about that, but this is a talented enough roster as a whole that as we get to the end of the season, again, should be there. But when that's the mentality of fan, like, again, I'm a casual NBA fan. I don't really watch this part of the year unless it's, there's nothing else on, or
Mhm,
if, there are times where I'll seek a game out. But right now, like Monday night, they played the second game against Cleveland. They were playing at the same time as the Green Bay Phoenix. I'm watching the Phoenix game, or I'm watching Duke
mhm,
play a regular season game that actually means a lot more for them than it does for the Bucks. That's just the reality of what's going to happen.
mhm.
So, you kind of get this shift in culture of, a lot of people say the season doesn't really start till Christmas, or the season doesn't start till Martin Luther King Jr. Day, because that's kind of where culturally it starts when you're a playoff year in, year out team.
Mhm.
But you have to get there. You can't get yourself too far behind the eight ball. And I think between that and I think we're also kind of seeing just the fact that the Bucks have some bad contracts right now. And they're fighting through for how much they traded to get guys like Dame and to get guys, who helped them win that championship in 2021. You're kind of seeing the effects of that. And I think by and large that's kind of good for basketball, that there is so much parity and that you can't just go more, like you can't completely, to go all in, you kind of have to give up the future a little bit.
Mhm.
And at some point that's probably going to come back to bite you in the ass. And I think that's a little bit of what's happening right now is the Bucks aren't getting, many first round, if any first round draft picks most years.
Mhm.
They're getting end of second round guys who they're really more or less kind of taking a flyer on and hoping that they play for them in 2 years.
Mhm.
And you're hoping they bring in a free agent either cheap or that you can get them kind of on a prove it deal. And that's where teams like the Bucks are right now. And that's, Golden State kind of in that same spot as well
Yep.
because of how
Yep.
all in they had gone for several years.
Mhm.
And it's probably going to take a couple years of sucking to an extent of what we expect for things to essentially kind of get back to normal. But that's kind of the cost of winning a championship, especially in a small market.
Yeah, and I don't want to sound all doom and gloom here. Granted, we are last place in the Eastern Conference. We're still only 2.5 games out of the 3 seed. So they have
It's
plenty
early.
of time. Yeah, there's 7 games in. They have plenty of time to pull this together. Um, I would say Doc Rivers' seat is getting a little warm. But again, they're only 2.5 games back of the 3 seed. So I would say Bucks management is going to give him a little bit more time. If they get to 20 games in and they're 2-17, I'm going to guess they're going to make a change. But time will tell. I think we have the tools to put it together. And Giannis is having an MVP season. 31, 31, 12, and 7 on 63% shooting.
Mm-hmm.
He's having an MVP level season. So
All right,
time will
real
tell.
quick, Dylan. I'm gonna look. They are currently an 8.5-point favorite over the Utah Jazz tomorrow night. Giannis is a game time decision. We already know Chris Middleton's out. Both teams at 1-6.
Mm-hmm.
At the Fiserv Forum, tickets as low as $5. Do the Bucks get it figured out tomorrow?
I think
Get a
so.
win over the Utah Jazz.
Yep, especially if Giannis plays.
Do they cover the 8.5?
Yeah. Yep.
All right, you heard it here.
I expect them to come into that game pissed off and win by 25 points.
All right. Well, you heard it here. That's Dylan's prediction. All right, so let's stay in the world of basketball quick. Look at the college teams within the state of Wisconsin for the most part, because there's one school we're not going to cover. Badgers played their first game. They are 1-0. They took down Holy Cross. It was close. It was ugly for the first bit of that game. It was a 21-5. They were trailing. They go on to get a 24-point win, 85-61, and I believe that was good enough to cover the spread. It was a 23.5-point line, so they came around to cover. So, Badgers do cover their first game this season. They statistically were led by John Tanji. I believe his pronunciation. If I mess it up, I'm sorry to him if he's listening. 23 points on 6 of 11 shooting, 8 of 8 from the free throw line. John Blackwell, 16 points as well. And it took to the second half. They went into the second half trailing. They were trailing 36-35 at halftime and outscored Holy Cross 50-25. They doubled them up in the second half to ultimately get that 24-point win. And then, of course, to backdoor cover the 23.5. So Badgers get a win. The women's team also got a win. Badger women got a win last night in their season opener against Horizon League foe Wright State. So that's the only reason I actually knew about that game, is because I had people watching it from Wright State. Green Bay Phoenix on their Marquette also 1-0. We'll get to the Phoenix in a second. Marquette men in 1-0. They take down Stony Brook 102-62 at Fiserv Forum. Cam Jones 32 points on 14 of 16 shooting to take down Stony Brook. Marquette also covers that when they were a 22.5-point favorite. Cam Jones 32 points, very impressive for him.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I don't know any of these people on the Marquette roster.
No.
But good for him. Cam Jones, I want to see if he's homegrown or if he's a transfer. Yep, he's been at Marquette. He's a senior. Congrats to him, senior out of Memphis for the Golden Eagles. All right, moving on. Green Bay Phoenix women. Not the start they probably wanted. They had a tough season opener on Monday morning to 13th ranked Kansas State. Really, they lose 92-45. That game at halftime was 49-12. And
that's a tough first half.
They do make a comeback in it. Jalen Glenn for Kansas State leads scoring with 17. This was a game, I watched the whole game, kind of just a matter of circumstance of you played a team that is picked to win the Big 12. They're the favorite. They have 2 Naismith Player of the Year candidates, or watch list player candidates from the Naismith Award, including Ioka Lee, excuse me, who they did held to 7 points. She's 6'6", held her to 7 points. I didn't know this actually until I was looking up this game, but she holds the Division I women's single game scoring record.
Oh, wow.
If you had to guess, Dylan, do you know how many points she had in that single game?
42.
61.
Oh, wow. Good for her.
So, yeah, just a tough one for Green Bay to start with. Outsized and got off to that slow start. Second half, they kind of looked better. Shouldn't say kind of looked better. They looked a lot better in the second half. Kind of found their footing. Obviously, they pretty much maintained, was a pretty equal half with Kansas State at that point, and they played their starters and their main role players throughout most of that second half as well. So it wasn't, like they're doing this on bench players. They played very well towards the end there.
Right.
Yeah, it's just a slow start doomed the Phoenix. Nothing really, I guess, concerning though. The Phoenix year in year out, they go and they make a tough non-conference schedule for themselves.
Yes, they do.
They'll continue that on Saturday, where they play a mid-major college insider mid-major top 25 team. They are also, Green Bay was ranked 10th in that initial college insider mid-major tournament or mid-major top 25, but they will play a top 25 team, I believe, in number 12 Northern Iowa on Saturday. So 2 tough opponents right out the gate. Green Bay ends up actually having 3 College Insider top 25 teams, as well as 2 AP top 25 teams on their schedule currently. But yeah, I also think part of that slow start is just they didn't have a formal exhibition game. Usually they're actually good for 2. Didn't have one this year, which I thought was a little odd, but new coach, things like that are going to happen. A lot of teams don't want to play Green Bay in an exhibition.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to see that kind of happen in that aspect too. So slow start is what it is. The men on the other side of things, though, Dylan. Green Bay men taking on Oklahoma State, who kind of on the flip side of things, also a Big 12 opponent, projected to finish towards the bottom of the Big 12. But Green Bay hung
Still
with
Big
them.
12.
It's still a Big 12 opponent, and Green Bay did cover. They were a 16.5-point dog in that one. They end up losing 89-76. Anthony Roy, who, as I found out, I talked about him in I talked about him a lot on Twitter after the St. Norbert exhibition. Didn't have a chance to talk. We did talk about it, but we didn't talk about it here on our show. But in the exhibition against St. Norbert, he had 46 points. And a lot of people are initially going to say, "Oh, it's against St. Norbert. Who cares?" Of that 46 points, he has 12 of 13 from 3-point shooting.
It's impressive.
So 36 of the 46 came from behind the arc. Saw a lot of that against Oklahoma State. Also for the Phoenix, we saw a career high of Marcus Hall, who scored 21. He had his career high by halftime. Preston Reedinger had 7. Foster Wonders, who was a go, he did not play in the exhibition. He had 10. Only 4 points off the bench, which isn't totally shocking, just considering kind of the size disparity and whatnot that Oklahoma State had. But Green Bay went into half trailing by 1 in that game, and yeah, they lose by 13, but they were right in it. And this is a team that is going to be very exciting down the stretch, and especially once they get into Horizon League play. Very well could make some noise in the Horizon League. They were projected or picked to finish 8th by the Horizon League coaching poll. I think they're going to finish a lot better than 8th. I think Anthony Roy is going to be playing at the next level, and I'm very excited. Friday, I'm going to be in attendance to watch them play back at the Crest Center, their season opener. They open up their home season against the St. Thomas Tommies, which ESPN, they don't have a line out on that game, which is typical for college basketball. But ESPN's matchup predictor has Green Bay a 60.1 to 39.9% likelihood of winning that. St. Thomas is going to come into that 1-0. They took down a D3 North Central Minnesota 96-71. I was kind of thinking Green Bay might actually come into this game as an underdog. But given that, I think it's probably going to be Green Bay. If I had to put a spread on it, probably by 3 or 4.
Probably a close one, yeah. But
St. Thomas is a very good mid-major as well. And I will be there. I hope you'll be there, Dylan. And I hope others are making the trek out to the Crest Center as well for that one. So that's my sales pitch to you, Dylan. Come and join me. We have 2 passes.
yes.
Yes, you're coming, or yes, you're gonna see.
I will see. I'll
If you
do
had to
my
give me,
best.
all right. I won't press you for a percentage, but I'm expecting to see you there.
Okay.
All right. Badger football really took one on the chin this week. They lose to
Yeah.
Iowa. They're very disappointing. That game should have been close. It wasn't. They played with Penn State pretty well the previous week, so I think kind of just a letdown game in a rivalry, which kind of sucks.
Mm-hmm.
But not surprising by any stretch of the imagination either. They have a bye week this week before they play number 1 team in the country, Oregon, at Camp Randall.
Yeah.
Good luck, Wisconsin. We'll talk more about that one next week.
Yeah, rest up.
Yeah, rest up. That game next Friday, actually. So we'll talk about that one next week. But yeah, they laid an egg against Iowa. But
Yeah.
that happens. It's college football. Brings us to the Green Bay Packers, who are on their bye week this week, but go into the bye week at 6-3. And Dylan, since the last time we talked for our fans to hear, they lose against the Lions in a game that the final score looked a lot closer than it probably actually was for most of the game. They lose 24-14, but they had won. They squeaked one out against Jacksonville. So at the bye week here, Dylan, your thoughts on this Green Bay Packers team through 9 games?
Through 9 games, we're 6-3. So I think things could be a lot worse, especially with your starting quarterback being not 100%. So I'm very glad the bye week is when it is. Gives him some time to rest. I really like the win against Houston. I was not real impressed with how they played against Jacksonville, but at the same time, they pulled it together and they got the win. You're not always going to be on your A game every single game, but the good teams find the ways to win.
Mm-hmm.
So I was impressed with them against Jacksonville in that sense. I didn't really expect them to win against the Lions, to be honest. I was hopeful, but not confident, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was one I just didn't count on them winning that one. Lions are good. They're a juggernaut this year. They're an absolute juggernaut, Super Bowl contender. And a 10-point game is a 10-point game. Hopefully we learn some stuff from it, and we go into the bye week. We can watch some film. We can rest, and we can come out and we can head down to Chicago and show them what's up.
Yeah, there were a lot of pissed off people on Packers Twitter and Packers social media after that Detroit game. And to an element, I get it. I get that being frustrated with how the game turns out, right? Like that is going to happen. As you're watching it, Jordan Love throws a really bad interception that ends up going for a touchdown. But at the same time, I'm an optimist out of this. I look at this team where your quarterback, who is playing hurt and, quite frankly, making some bad decisions, I think there does need to be a philosophy discussion with, not forcing a throw, holding on for a sack, as opposed to just throwing something up like we've seen a couple times now. Because that's 2 or 3 times where that has happened, where he's just toss something off his back foot as he's going down to try to get it out. I think you can live with the sack. If you're already being contacted, just take it to the ground.
Yeah.
But like I said, if I'm going to silver linings this, the fact of the matter is, you really only gave up 17 points to a very good Lions team.
Mm-hmm.
So the pick six was what it was. You gave up a touchdown in the second quarter on a good drive by the Lions to start that quarter. You give up obviously the pick six, and then you give up a touchdown in the first drive that Detroit has out of the half.
Mm-hmm.
I can live with that. If you're telling me if you were told me on Sunday that the Packers would have really outgained the Lions in yardage totals if they would have kept the Lions to 17 offensive points, I'd have felt pretty good about that.
Mm-hmm.
I think coming out of that possession where the Lions gifted you 30 yards and losing Brian Branch, and not coming out of that with points, weather definitely an element in that game. I'm not going to freak out on Brandon McManus for missing a kick that when the wind and rain were that bad, kickers miss kicks in that. It is what it is.
Yep.
So I'm not gonna crucify a guy over that. But going into, like I said, going into the bye week and being at 6-3, being very much in the playoff picture, and take this game worth what it was. I still think this team's trending up, and a chance to kind of get healthy, take a breather. Jordan Love doesn't have to force himself to be good by Saturday or Sunday and have limited practice. He can really have a week of rest and got to get his shit back together. Same thing with Jair Alexander, who once again kind of proved his worth to this team. I'm okay with all of that. I think their best part of their season is coming up. It's going to be daunting. I'll be the first to say it. They have Bears on the road coming out of this bye week, which under the Matt LaFleur, the team has at times struggled out of a bye week. They've got the 49ers at home, who haven't been the 49ers of old, but Christian McCaffrey is expected to play this weekend. So all you fantasy football people out there, if you don't have him and you're in a playoff push, try to do what I did and go get him in a league. If you have the capital to do so, make a move, because Kyle Shanahan is indicating that when he's playing, he is going to be the brunt of the run game. Like he's going to come back and play his normal role. They're not going to bring him back and say he's limited. He is going to play his role. So make of that what you will. Ideally for him and for the 49ers' sake, he plays this week. For my fantasy team, I hope he plays this week. My fantasy teams, I should say. But that's going to be a big get for the 49ers next week. Or 2 weeks, 3 weeks when we play them. Then you've got Thursday Night Football, Thanksgiving game against the Dolphins. Then you have not a short week because it's a full week off. But you're back against the Lions. Then you're on the road out in Seattle, who they're at 4-5, but they're a solid team, especially out in Seattle. That's a tough place to play. Home against the Saints, who they just fired their coach and had an interaction with the Pope that was really funny. If you haven't seen that on Twitter, you should. Then you've got the Vikings and the Bears again. So you're at a very daunting part of the schedule, but this is a very big stretch where you have to probably win minimum. Let's see, there's there's 8 games left. You would expect to go 6-2 or 5-3 in that.
Yep.
Which, if that's the case, I mean, I think you split with the Lions. I think you get them in Detroit coming off Thanksgiving. I think that'll be okay for Green Bay. The Niners game could go either way. That Dolphins game depends if Tua's throwing up gang signs or if he's playing. So, there's a lot to be determined, but I think they're going to catch some of these teams at good times to play them. And we'll see. So that's where we're at. Packers are off this week. Enjoy watching the rest of the league play. and just paying attention to fantasy football. That's kind of my plan.
Yeah.
So, all right, Dylan, we'll wrap up here. We're going to go through rapid fire through the picks for the week. I know you said you had a hard out at 8. It's 8:01. I think we're in good shape. We can do this quick.
Rapid fire. Let's hit it.
All right. Thursday Night Football, we got Bengals, Ravens.
Ravens.
Germany game, Giants, Panthers.
Oh, Panthers.
I'm going Ravens, by the way, before as well.
Okay.
I'm going Giants in that one.
Panthers.
Patriots, Bears.
Bears, unfortunately.
I'm going to go with the I'm going to go with the Bears. I don't want to. I think the Patriots give them a game.
Either, but...
No, you know what? I'm going to say it. I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to say the Patriots. Drake Mays look good. He's really kind of figured it out since taking over that starting job. The Patriots.
Mm-hmm.
Bills, Colts. Give me the Bills.
Yeah, me too. Bills.
We've got Broncos, Chiefs. Chiefs are 8-0. That doesn't change this week. They win again.
Yeah, I agree.
Falcons, Saints.
Falcons. Too much disarray in New Orleans with their firing their coach and all that stuff. So,
see, typically speaking, though, you kind of get that first fired coach bounce game. So I'm gonna take the Saints for that matter. Don't love it, but I'm gonna take them.
Mm-hmm.
Niners, Bucks, and again, Christian McCaffrey expected or is on pace to play.
I'm gonna go with the Niners.
I'm also gonna go Niners. I think they kind of have a fun showing up party, kind of bringing out their new weapon. But yeah, that's gonna be a good game. That might be game of the weekend. We've got Steelers, Commanders. Steelers coming off a bye, I believe. Washington is as well. Washington at 7-2. Steelers at 6-2. Washington at home.
That's gonna be a good game. I'm just gonna take the home team. I'm gonna take Washington.
I'm gonna say the Steelers in this one.
I haven't watched either team enough to know, so I'm just gonna go with the home team.
I'm gonna go with the Steelers in this one. Upset pick. I think they've kind of figured some stuff out here as of late. Being with Russell Wilson kind of taking over, they looked like they hit a different gear.
Mm-hmm.
Last of the noon games, Vikings, Jags. Give me the Vikings in that one. Hate picking that, but that should be Vikings. A win for them. Titans, Chargers. Give me the Chargers in that one.
Yep, I agree.
A game that looked a lot better when they were making the schedule than it actually is, but it will be America's game of the week. Eagles, Cowboys.
Eagles.
Side bet on this one. Is this the week if the Eagles come in and destroy the Cowboys, does Mike McCarthy finally get fired?
No.
I'm also going to say no, given that his contract's up at the end of the year. I think, Jerry Jones, to his credit, is a pretty smart businessman. I believe there'd probably be some sort of buyout. I don't think he's going to want to pay him all at once. He's going to make him earn his contract, even though the Cowboys suck. So, but definitely having that conversation at this point with the Cowboys being at 3-5. Next one, we got Jets, Cardinals.
Cardinals.
I'm going to take the Jets in this one. I think they've kind of figured some stuff out. Cardinals, I think they just had their bye this last week. No, they couldn't have because they're 5-4. So Kyler Murray did miss Call of Duty release weekend and Double XP weekend, but I'm going to say the Jets. Sunday Night Football, we've got Detroit, Houston.
Right.
I'm going to go Houston this one. I think defensively they can kind of hang with them. And I think, a lot's being said right now about C.J. Stroud and that Texans offense struggling. I think if they can kind of keep pace with them defensively, which Houston can do, I think Houston will be okay in that one. Monday Night Football, Dolphins, Rams. Again, another game that looked a lot better when they were making the schedule. But injuries are what they are. Yeah, the Rams looked good this last Sunday. I saw them in that game out in Seattle. Give me the Rams in that one. All right, Dylan. As we wrap up here, we have our Ticket Smarter ticket of the week. Use code Roots10, $10 off of any ticket that you would order. So $10 off your ticket there. Let's use, how about this one? Green Bay Phoenix versus St. Thomas at the Crest Center on Monday night or on Friday night. Actually, it looks like there might not be tickets on that one. So let me go back to the drawing board. You know what? We're still going to do it because tickets may become available as they go along here because they are a partner of the Phoenix. So tickets to that one, like I said, I'm going to go Green Bay Phoenix, St. Thomas Tommy's. Be there Friday night. I'll be there. Dylan probably will be there, hopefully. I'm counting on it. So join us and say hello before the game, after the game, and during the game. I'm usually covering the team for Twitter. So be sure to follow along with us out there. Dylan, what are you rooting for in the upcoming week?
No Packers this week, so I'm all in on basketball. We got Bucks basketball. We got Badger basketball. We got Phoenix basketball. Partially invested in Duke men's and UConn women's. So, yeah, it's going to be a basketball weekend for me.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty much in that same capacity. I'm all in on basketball world right now. Would love to see Doug Gottlieb get his and Kale Karius get her first career Green Bay win, and Doug Gottlieb get his first coaching win officially with the Phoenix Friday, Saturday back to back. We got 6:00 Friday night out at the Crest Center. Probably won't be able to make the women's game at 1, but be there, have some fun, root for the Phoenix, get involved at the Crest Center, have a good weekend. All right, that's gonna do our episode, our rushed episode. Pretty proud of that. That's
about an hour. Under an hour.
For Shauna, Sean, Justin, Ramsey, who aren't here, I'm Eric. That's Dylan. Episode 163 is in the books. We're out. See ya.
Peace.